We're here with our third and final installment of the favorite combos video. Some are the best combos, some are just my favorites, as we'll get to in a second. For the Skaven, this is probably the best combo, is Poison Wolf Rats and Rat Ogres. A tale as old as time, a song as old as rhyme. I'd say Beauty and the Beast, but it's more of just Beast and a slightly different beast. So Rat Ogres and Wolf Rats pair very well together. Wolf Rats provide poison and speed to slow things down so that the Rat Ogres can catch up. Rat Ogres provide thick, large bodies that can block the initial cavalry charge onto Wolf Rats. So here I have a Wolf Rat versus a Cold One Knight, a Rat Ogre versus a Cold One Knight, and then a Rat Ogre and a Wolf Rat versus a Cold One Knight. Again, 2v1 is not fair, but I'm just showing that, you know, teamwork is better than the individual parts. Cold Knights are worth almost as much as these two units put together. It's like a 200 gold difference. We can see the joint pairing. These guys are poisons. They're dealing less damage. Rat Ogres took almost no impact damage from the charge. And already, these Cold One Knights are just about dead. Now separating off the Cold Ones, baiting the AI into attacking two different things. What I want you to see is the Wolf Rats taking charge damage from these Cold One Knights. And that's not even the best charge Cold One Knights can get. It takes maybe a third to half their HP, and they rout on the charge. And without the Wolf Rats constantly poisoning and helping out the Rat Ogres, these Rat Ogres are also taking a lot more damage. Meanwhile, over here, Cold One Knights are just about dead, and they even get a high Beastmaster to help them out. And I think I'm about to pop the bell. Yeah, so I'm just popping the bell now. But before I pop the bell for extra leadership, this Wolf Rat got 115 value. This Rat Ogre got 430. Meanwhile, over here, the Rat Ogres and Wolf Rats working together. The Rat Ogre's gotten 460, and the Wolf Rats got 339. So the Rat Ogres got similar value, and they've taken close-ish in damage, but this Rat Ogre still has 1,200 more HP. But with the Rat Ogre helping out, this Wolf Rat's gotten almost triple the value of its compatriot, and it's still nearly full HP. Let's now use the Scream Bell to keep them in the fight for a little bit. Gonna knock out that Cold One Knight, ignoring the high Beastmaster. They go on to fight another Cold One Knight, and they beat another Cold One Knight before the Beastmaster attacking them in the back routs them off. But the Rat Ogre and the Wolf Rat working together almost beat two whole Cold One Knights together. Not in a 2v2, but a 2v1 and then a different 2v1, which is how they're supposed to be used. Whereas the other ones individually couldn't even do much damage to one at all, so. For Slaanesh, the best combination is just Seekers and Rampage from Pavane or from the tier 3 army ability of Slaanesh. But here I thought I'd make it a little spicier by using my favorite combo, is Nakari being the one providing that Rampage, and the Seekers being the Eternal Entourage Heartseeker ROR. Because Nakari can provide Willing Prey, minus 40 melee defense, minus 24 melee attack, means the Heartseekers can rip through whatever, and then popping his own Wit Stealer Sword, giving himself 100% more damage, while the Eternal Entourage also give him more damage, so he gets like 120% more damage. These two units pair very, very well with each other. And they can just pile in, instantly shred things. Then we can even throw down a Rampage on these Dragon Princes so that they come and fight me while I still have all my buffs active. Nakari is ripping through the Fireborn as the Eternal Entourage are doing their business. Yeah, the Dragon Princes do get a bit of a rear charge, but it won't be long before we turn our attentions to them. The Fireborn are just about dead. There they go, terror routing, and they are going to shatter. And then Nakari piles straight through. And my buff just wore off, but in that time we've already killed two Dragon Princes. Nakari's gotten almost 1,000 value. The Eternal Entourage has gotten 2,100. These two do pair well together, and then Nakari is pretty good at killing single entities that are problematic, like Tyrion. So Nakari's just going to charge through and get a bunch of damage on Tyrion. And in about a minute and 20 seconds, we have gotten 2,000-ish damage value on Nakari and 3,000-ish damage value on these guys. So in about a minute and 20 seconds, we got about 5,000 damage value out from these two melee units. Pretty potent. The Tomb Kings have a lot of strong independent units, but one thing I wanted to point out is there is a bit of a box-breaking combo that you can use, or just to kite out heavy infantry spam from either Khorne or the Chaos Warriors or something. Now note, we cast our first Venom Staff at 10 seconds. So we're shooting at Storm Vermin here, decently heavily armored infantry, shielded and whatnot, and on the first volley from the Chosen of the Gods and High Queen Khalidah's Venom Staff, we can take out a third of their HP down to half after another shot from the Chosen of the Gods. But there is a reason for showing you this. Khalida has the Blessing of Al-Saf, so if she hangs out with the Chosen of the Gods, which I honestly forgot when I was piloting this, we could be doing even more damage. But you can extend your Chosen of the Gods and High Queen Khalida out to kite the heavy infantry, and the rest of your army could be like way back here. Notice how we got another cast out, and it's only been 50 seconds. 40-second cooldown on this thing is pretty insane. Cooldown is actually 30 seconds. It just takes her a while to cast it sometimes. So she can get out all 4 casts of it within about 2 minutes. 2 minutes from the start of the game, you can use all 4 of her casts. And you can see the heavy infantry are suffering quite a lot. We're only a minute into the game. And as I was trying to say, your army, your main army, could be back here as you're just kiting backwards. This is a little more useful in campaign, where sometimes certain armies won't be as diverse. They won't have a bunch of skirmish cav or artillery or anything like that, as we get another Venom Staff out onto the Storm Vermin. Nice side shot down over there. But also, it can be good in multiplayer if your opponent didn't bring that diverse of a build. But they're just going to melee rush you, so you can kite them out like this. But in the time, I'm going to use my 4th and final Venom Staff. We are about to route a Storm Vermin over there. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. We all know the Chosen of the Gods with their cluster arrows do a lot of damage. But there we go. As I have fired my last Venom Staff, Khalida has 880 value. Chosen of the Gods have 850. So Khalida's Venom Staff versus heavy infantry can do as much damage as the Chosen of the Gods, which are widely considered to be one of the best regiments renowned in the entire game. And I'm just saying, if you're expecting heavy infantry, you could consider going with Khalida and trying to kite them out a little bit like that, because then afterwards she's still a poison duelist lady, and she can do fine for that. You could also take a neck caster for Usurian's Incantation of Vengeance on your hero slot and do even more damage to their heavy cavalry. Or you could use the Chosen of the Gods versus the heavy cavalry and her versus the heavy infantry. But these two can make a pretty decent kite duo that do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. That was 2 minutes total. We've already killed almost 2 entire Storm Vermin, and that one's at half HP. For a Tzeentch tech, I did bring 2 of each, but then I decided to bail because the dwarves are really close together. Our pairing for this is the Chaos Spawn of Tzeentch and Forsaken of Tzeentch. Chaos Spawn with their armor sundering and high weapon strength with low model count are really good at fitting in between Forsaken lines, getting into that front line, and then Forsaken with their very high weapon strength but relatively low armor piercing value. Chaos Spawn help out a lot with reducing the armor of heavily armored front lines like these dwarf warriors. Now, to not be unfair, I brought Chaos Knights just to get some more large units with high weapon strength and a lot of models in here, just to compare them to Chaos Spawn. If Tzeentch had, like, Trolls, I would give them Trolls to compare to the Chaos Spawn. But the Chaos Spawn with their armor sundering and high weapon strength helping out the Forsaken, just getting through dwarf warriors, and I think they'll get through relatively quicker. You can see that the sundering armor is spreading to different dwarf warriors. One routes there. The one with the less focus from the Chaos Spawn is going to route as well. And then we back off because we don't want to provide any aid to these other ones that are still taking quite a while to get through that front line. And there they finally go. So it can make a difference. Dwarves have a very high melee defense and incredibly high armor values. So you could use it versus something with more like 60 armor and you get it down to 30, and that can be pretty clutch. Or you can pair it with Blue Fire or Pink Fire of Tzeentch. They apply that Warp Flame debuff that reduces armor even further. For all of you out there who hate fun, there is a second Vampire Coast tech I'll throw in after this, but my favorite Vampire Coast tech is admittedly terrible, but very funny. It's the Armored Personnel Carrier. I have used this since Warhammer 2. It's always been my favorite meme. It has literally never won me a game once, but it is my favorite. It's putting a bloated corpse behind a rotting Leviathan. Rotting Leviathans with their giant unit size and their high armor can deflect most small arms fire that would insta-kill your precious bloated corpse and get you to the front line you desire. Now we are charging dwarves with cannons, thunderers, blasting charges on their ironbreakers and quarrelers, and all of those shots are going to hit the big crab, and none of the missiles reach our precious little bloated corpse companion. Oh, he's taken like 24 damage from something. Blasting charges go straight through. Now the Rotting Leviathan is going to die, but it's safely escorted the Bloated Corpse to the front line. Go, Bloated Corpse, go! Go, Bloated Corpse, go! And then the Rotting Leviathan charges over him, knocking all the dwarves away, so he can't actually make contact for a little bit, so he's still hiding behind his friend, who finally dies, and then he can get an explosion off. Take that, Ironbreakers. Totally worthwhile tactic. But I thought I'd share with you because it's been my favorite for a long time. I love it. It's terrible, but I love it. For not terrible, more serious tech, this is actually something I do use versus Demons of Chaos or Tzeentch. I also have used it. Used it versus Nurgle as well. It's a triple combination of the Gallows Giant, Shade Wraith Gunners, and then a Deathcaster. Deathcaster, you can bring Doom and Darkness. Gallows Giant, Necrophects Colossus, you have Burnt Leadership debuff, and then the Shade Wraith Gunners, you have Magic damage and Discouraged. The burst damage from the Shade Wraith Gunners on Chaos Furies can honestly take them out in 2 volleys on its own. Gallows Giant's Burnt debuff and Doom and Darkness can help clear out front lines. You can see here, I already got it down to -2 leadership from 1 volley, but it is going to slightly rally. If I fired a whole nother volley, I would take that guy out. Oh, there we go. Firing another volley. Oh, their leadership stayed strangely high considering how low it was a second ago. And then I switch a little prematurely onto the other one with the Gallows Giant Burnt leadership debuff as well. There we go. Burnt leadership debuff and the other debuff taking out these Chaos Furies. That one has 1 leadership left. Are you serious, bro? They're getting the charging bonus onto my Lord. So now they're going to land on these other guys. But you can do a lot of damage to Furies on the advance. I didn't want to waste Doom Darkness because I wanted to use an Overcast one, but they got onto my Shade Wraith Gunners. Now I'm having issues getting rid of them. And then again, we just have Doom and Darkness, plus a Burnt, plus Shade Wraith Gunners, and these Nurglings at nearly full HP. Thinking about routing, there they start to go. Once they start routing, they don't stop. You can see we have -40 leadership from our various Discouraged at the bottom there. Discouraged, Doom and Darkness, and Burnt. Just getting rid of those Nurglings. So it can be quite nice, especially if you've already used your Shade Wraith Gunners to take out the enemy Lord, then the demonic roster is just doomed. They just can't hold on at all. So Shade Wraith Gunner is very, very effective at that, and the Gallows Giant is just a nice centerpiece. And he does apply Burnt in melee, which not a lot of people know. It's not, you don't just have to kite with him. It's like, yeah, you can just get him surrounded and then he fires at stuff around him. It's pretty nice tech against Seekers, especially. Just throw the Gallows Giant into Seekers and he'll take a lot of damage, so you have to have the Shade Wraith Gunners able to shoot at his feet. But with the Shade Wraith Gunners providing support fire and he's burning them in melee, you can take out Seekers pretty darn quickly. And then without the Seekers, the Demons of Chaos are pretty easy to kite out after that. So no memes, no trolling around. I will just show the most competitive vampire counts combination, a very strong one that is well known. And you can even support it with more things. I brought 1 zombie, 1 crypt horror, and the Mortis engine, but normally a frontline for the vampire counts has 5 zombies, and you have a lord who can summon more zombies. But the combination of zombies, crypt horrors, and the Mortis engine is just an insane combo. Zombies are some of the cheapest infantry in the game, but they also have incredibly high mass for their unit size because there's so many of them. 160 with 90 mass is insane. 12,000 HP, and then crypt horrors are self-regenerating monstrous infantry with armor piercing, making them good against other monsters or cavalry, as we see here, these Chaos Knights of Khorne with lances charging in. And the Mortis engine presides over it all with its constant AoE drain when it's in melee, and then it does have a slow regeneration for those zombies at its feet. Also helps the crypt horrors stay in there as well. And I have a Master Necromancer with nothing on him because I have to take a Lord in these things, but yeah. It's just this combination can handle anything. Crypt Horrors and the Mortis engine can handle any knights that would try and charge you, any cavalry of any kind. Zombies plus the Mortis engine kill infinite amounts of infantry, and zombies plus the Crypt Horrors are enough to keep single entities at bay and keep them away from the Mortis engine with just enough mass to push them back no matter what. The Mortis engine can keep skirting around. Let's see, 100 gold, 900 gold, I think? I think it's about 1,000, and the Mortis engine is about 1,400, I believe. If I remember correctly, throwing these off the top of my head. It's roughly 2,400 for this combo versus Bloodletters, Marauders, Chaos Warriors of Khorne, Chaos Knights with Lances, and the Bloodspeaker. I think they have twice my value. Not twice. 800, 400, so it's 1,200. 800-ish again. I think they're 850, but let's just do 800 for quick math. That's 2,000, and then you're 1,400. So it's 3,400 versus 2,400. They have 1,000 more value than me. And then the Bloodspeaker. But I intentionally took the worst Khorne Lord at combat, just so he didn't do too much damage and disprove my point. I mean, obviously, like, Scarbrand would do fine here, but you can see that the Crypt Horrors and the zombies are just holding back most of the tide, keeping these guys away from surrounding the Mortis engine, but the Mortis engine still makes a contact with enough of them to provide that constant drain. Even these Chaos Knights trying to charge in and out are still taking a lot of slow drain damage from the Mortis engine. And we did pick a mix of armored infantry, chaff infantry, and heavy damage dealing Bloodletters. I mean, it's Khorne, so even the Chaos Warriors can do decent damage. and still these zombies are doing fine. Now imagine you have Manfred von Karstein or someone flying around and every so often throwing another zombie under the Mortis engine as it continues to lose its little guys here. Could be even more potent. Necromancer's in the fray just because I needed a lord, and if I dismissed him from the battlefield, if I took him off, my whole army would take minus 16 leadership, and that makes my zombies crumble faster and kind of screws with the point, so is what it is. But the Marauders are already leaving, Bloodletters are down to a third HP, and I suppose I could go ×2 speed from this point now that I've made myself clear. Zombies are gone, and even without them, Crypt Wars hold on for quite a long time, still providing good bodies to keep the Mortis engine somewhat safe. We're still fighting the Blood Speaker even. Marauders are gone. Almost lost our Crypt Horrors. Mortis engine's down to half HP, but it's still regenerating up. We're almost getting rid of those Bloodletters. My Master Necromancer is about to die. And finally, the Crypt Horrors are gone. The Mortis engine is all alone. But in that time, it's gotten about 2,100 value. And still draining. Somehow these Bloodletters have hung on to their leadership. Dun, 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 dun. It's about to die, but it took out the Bloodletters with it. If we take a look at the values, so that combination, zombies paid for themselves while fighting better things than themselves because they had the support of the Mortis engine providing magic attacks and healing. Crypt Horrors about paid for themselves a little less, and then the Mortis engine 2,200 value, which is pretty insane. Meanwhile, my opponents got 1,100, 150, 500, 700, and 470. So this combination, for cheaper, can punch up in melee against any combination of foes, maybe barring just an incredibly powerful single entity like Skarbrand or Nakari or something like that. But yeah, Vampire Counts use this to good effect. And again, you could have more than one zombie. You usually have like 5, so the Mortis engine can survive for even longer. Similar to the Skull Taker for Khorne with his Chaos Knights of Khorne, Sartorial the Everwatcher after his rework is one of my new favorite combo lords to use any mobility with. You can do this with Rot Knights, you can do this with Skull Crushers, you can do this with any of those, but I still feel Chaos Knights with their relatively high stats but no armor piercing is the best showcase for why I really like Sartorial now. With his combination, he can bring a lot to a cav fight. Plague of Rust, as we mentioned several times during this list, is one of the best combo tools in the entire game, and pair it with his Rock of Inevitability, a slow and melee defense debuff, and he can even bring Standard Die, which is a melee defense buff for your faction if you need it. And you can take on foes that are very dangerous. Here we have the Warbear Riders, anti-large armor-piercing specialists that usually rip apart Chaos Knights, but with Sartorial's support, we can dive in and mess up these guys. Rock of Inevitability and Plague of Rust Overcast down gives them only 31 armor and 8 melee defense. You can see they are just getting shredded on the fight, on the charge actually, by my Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights already have 750 value, meanwhile these Chaos Knights have 500. It's getting about 50% more damage out, but with Sartorial's help, obviously he is contributing a little bit of damage as well. I've already popped the Buyer Blood passive for the Warbear Riders. Fight goes on and on. Plague of Rust has worn off now. In that time, my Chaos Knights got 1,100 value. The other Chaos Knights at 700, but more importantly, they're also, like, dead. And they flat out lost the fight. The Warbears they were fighting still have half their HP. These Warbears are now shattering, and they are entirely dead. So Sartorial brings a lot to cav engagements, and he's fast enough and he's flying to get to these areas. And again, he only provided 340 damage, so still the Chaos Knights did most of the work, just with all of Sartorial's buffs helping them quite a lot. The final example is a two-parter, because I have to show with and without. You can triple gold chevron Treekin and get them to be 150-ish gold more expensive than the Firebark Elders, and the Firebark Elders are still better. For this combo for the Wood Elves, it was hard to find like an actual combo I liked, but this is a really good one. Firebark Elders giving AoE fire resistance, and then Durthu providing, so they help each other. The Firebark Elders give AoE fire resistance, which Durthu can benefit from now, because he is normally weak to fire since he is a tree. So this reduces his own fire weakness down to 5%. But Durthu provides Ancient Protector, negating magic attacks in the area, making the Firebark Elder's physical resistance come back into play, plus his own. So these two can help each other out a lot if your opponent is trying to stack fire damage to kill Durthu. Whether you're dealing with Khorne or Chaos Dwarves, those both have a lot of fire damage on their roster, or your opponent is just trying to use Flaming Sword of Ruin to take you down in melee. Bull Centaur Renders with Flaming Sword of Ruin can be pretty intense, something like that. But here we have Khorne, Forsaken, usually relying on their fire attacks to do a lot of damage to these guys, and then an Exalted Bloodthirster who has fire and magic attacks. You can see his magic attack is debuffed, and his fire damage is not going to do nearly as much. So Durthu has this normal combination of Flock of Doom and Sword of Death to clear out any infantry. Durthu himself is really good against large targets, and the Firebark Elders just make it so that not as many things can surround Durthu at the same time, so he gets to take a few more 1v1s where he'll definitely win, like against this very scary Exalted Bloodthirster, or against, you know, Skull Crushers or Blood Crushers or whatever would be charging him at the time. Firebark Elders just stop him from getting surrounded while also giving him fire resistance. So we'll see how this blob fight plays out. Oh, we also have the Hellforged Host. There we go. The ROR Exalted Bloodletters of Khorne. They have magic damage, armor piercing, and fire damage. But again, that magic damage is negated because Durthu straight up takes it away from them, making the Firebark Elders much tankier. So Durthu's fighting it out, using his blob clearing spells and his 1v1 dueling prowess. He can kill the Exalted Bloodthirster, he can rout off everything, and the Firebark Elders fight nearly to the end to help him out. And they win the fight together. Both of them are still here. The Firebark Elders didn't quite break yet, and Durthu survived. Taking a look at their value, 3,900 for Durthu, 1,000 for the Firebark Elders. So 3,900 and 1,000. Sounds good, and they did win. So comparing them with just a normal triple ranked up Treekin without the fire resistance, it means they're both going to take 20% more damage, which actually I think the Firebark Elders had 40% damage resistance from the flames. So now we have the exact same fight playing out in the exact same way. I saved my Flock of Dooms and Sword of Deaths until I could hit all three of them. I overcast my first two Flock of Dooms, and then I undercast after that the exact same way. But already my regular tree can have routed just because they have such less tankiness from fire damage that people want to take against the Wood Elves. And Durthu is going to go down soon. And he's still putting up good numbers for himself, but he's not quite able to do it this time. He does end up losing. Still getting 3,700 value, but ending up dying, and his non-Firebark Elders only got 400 value instead of 1,000, so. Firebark Elders can help Durthu against melee opponents that want to spam fire, which is actually more common than you'd think into Wood Elves, because you have Treekins, Durthu is a Meta Lord, but you also have Dryads, which can be weak to fire, and you have an abundance of healing on the roster, so people want to take fire. It's not that uncommon for people to try to spam fire into the Wood Elves, so the Firebark Elders and Durthu can make a very potent center that you can play the game around, especially if you're kiting. Just having the Firebark Elders and Durthu walking around while your skirmishers run away and cause a lot of damage, it can be annoying.
Subscribe, yes.